I had this problem growing up for a long time where I was addicted to pop, and I was addicted to the caffeine high that it gave you, so much that my mother used to call me a Pepsi-aholic. Hello and welcome to the show, Overcoming Impossible Odds. My name is Chris Boyles. Those of you who are adults living with ADHD and ADD, I have something special I want to talk to you about. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. And there are those of you out there who live with ADHD and ADD may not have gotten all of your information and from different sources. Now, I am not a doctor and I am not a teacher. I am just somebody who's lived with this for a very long time. And I've come to understand what it's like to explain ADD or ADHD to somebody who is an adult. Now, the ADHD is the hyper part that really makes it hard. Somebody who could talk fast, somebody who jumbles their words together quickly, somebody who acts quickly without thinking, somebody who is high on caffeine, and that's another video I'll do for you another time. And then you have people who have ADHD without the hyperness. You're very sluggish, you're slow to act, you're not interested, you're easily distracted. This is for you as well. So I'm going to give you some things to think about living with this myself. Is I grew up, I was addicted to the pop products. When a person who has ADHD is basically drinking a large amounts of caffeine, it's like intensifying your hyperdrive. If you drink your Coke products or Pepsi products, Mountain Dew products, you're wanting that caffeine drive to help you. For normal people who don't have ADHD, that's perfectly fine. But with a person who has this, you're sending your mind into literally hyper speed. You can't stop. You can't sit. You think fast, you act fast, and it's, and making decisions without thinking about it is what is happening. I had this problem growing up for a long time where I was addicted to pop, and I was addicted to the caffeine high that it gave you, so much that my mother used to call me a Pepsi-aholic, and I would just drink it from morning until night because I just loved the taste of it, and I loved the energy that it gave me. The problem is it wasn't the Pepsi or the Coke or any of the name brands out there. It was the caffeine. It could be chocolate, it could be ice cream, it could be whatever it was. It just sent me into a immediate high, which gave me a hyperdrive feeling. And that really made life living with me as a child or as a teenager very difficult for my siblings and my mother and father. I could not sit still. I could not concentrate on anything unless I was either forced to do it, and then I would daydream because I would be bored, and on and on. I would really have a hard time if it wasn't action. I had a hard time with concentrating in class. I had a hard time in concentrating in college. If I didn't like a certain subject, like art history, I fell asleep in art history. It bored me, and I practically almost failed the class twice. And it just, I saw no meaning for it. It had no meaning for my life. Why would I need this? I just wanted to go to my classes, and do my thing as an artist, not knowing that, there was a reason that you had to learn your history, and it just made me fall asleep. And maybe somebody listening to this is understanding that. And what happened is the caffeine really put me off. It made me have, I would say, like false pride, false energy. It made me do things I shouldn't have done. I get in the car, and without thinking about it and waiting, I would act and make really, really wrong and bad decisions. And also with people who have ADD and ADHD, you have trigger points. You have highs and lows, and sometimes you don't really even know that. The highs and lows are a false anxiety. Caffeine will give you a false anxiety, and then the moment the caffeine wears off, it gives you a false depression. You're not depressed, but it gives you a false crash, and it crashes fast. And what happens at that point is you feel like you're depressed when you're really not depressed at all, and then you need that quick fix to get that caffeine high that makes you feel good all over again. And the cycle is up and down, up and down, up and down. I went through that for 20 some years up until my mid 30s, and I'm in my 40s now. So I learned with ADHD, think of this. You're in a room, a large room. There are 100 TVs in a circle that surround you, and they're large. They're like 55-inch TVs, and they're all surrounding you. And you're right in the middle of this room. And somebody walks in, and all the TVs are turned off. You have their complete attention. Now, you turn on one TV behind them, and the focus has been cut in half to 50% on the person talking to you and 50% on the news or whatever's on the TV at the time. Now, the TV to your side or behind you has been turned on. Now, your attention has been cut into threes. And a person with ADD or ADHD now has to focus really hard on the person that's talking to me. Then their mind is wandering off onto the TV because there's something on the television that they're interested in now. Now the TV behind me is flipping stations. Now I'm having a hard time listening to the person that's in front of me. They're going to have to scream or yell at this point to get my attention, or the TVs behind me in front of me are going to have to turn down a little bit. All of a sudden now all the TVs in the room turn on at the same time, and the sound gets louder. Not only is the person in front of me talking loud, I have about 10 people that just walked in the room. Now I have to divide my time not only to 10 different people at the same time, then 100 TVs. So what's going to happen is the anxiety is going to rise absolutely crazy to the point where they're just going to blow up, or they're going to have a giant meltdown and they're going to clam up and they're not going to do anything. So with a person who has this problem, I'm not saying medication is good or bad, but if they're on medication to help with this, okay, I'm not on medication anymore. I have been healed of this, and that'll be a story for down the road. But living with ADHD is it's whatever grabs your attention at the time is where the mind goes. It shifts to the left, to the right, off the track. And my biggest problem is if I'm in the car with somebody driving down the road and I have something on my mind and they're talking to me, okay, and the drivers, I have to really concentrate on what they're saying to me and the road in front of me. Now you might say, well, that's a little extreme. Not with a person who has ADHD. That's why it's called attention deficit disorder. They have a problem keeping their attention on you or a teacher, a pastor, whoever, for just a small amount of time. their time span is between 5 to 10 minutes, and then they start to wonder, and they look around the room, and they want to flip to another station. They want to look at their phone. They want to start texting, and you have now been cut out of their mind, even though you're talking to them or they're talking to you. So I hope you understand that that is the realistic way that people like I myself used to think. They come off as a selfish person, and when they talk, if I'm in a conversation with somebody and they're talking, sometimes what will happen is a thought comes into their head while somebody's talking, and they might cut right into their conversation. If the person talks fast, then they most likely will wait. If the person talks slow, like a senior, they'll want to finish their sentence. They'll want to rush to the end and get done if they have this hyper drive attached to their ADHD, okay? I did that almost all my life. I would be talking to somebody, and I would know almost probably instantly what they were going to say, and I would end up finishing their sentence. Now, recently I have been told, when you do this, I didn't just know that this was rude. Years ago, I didn't know it was rude, but I would be a very quiet kid, and then when somebody talked to me, and then I'm drinking pop or eating chocolate or whatever had caffeine, I would cut off people while they were talking to me, and that is one of the biggest what would you call it? It would be a very rude and disgrading thing. What you're trying to tell that person without even knowing it is you're boring me. You're not that important to me. I'm more important than you are. You're giving them a false reading. So I just wanted to explain that to you, that anybody who has this ADHD, their attention span is very, very limited. Okay, to 5 or 10 minutes, and that's why I'm trying to make this very short for anybody who's watching this. So if anybody's watching this who has ADHD at all, and you talk and you cut people off in a conversation, they may limit their time with you in conversations. They might have their hand up and say, just wait, I'm going to finish what I have to say first. And then what happens is that's happened to me. I've learned that if you have to wait, you have this thing on your mind, this subject that you really want to talk about, and you're sitting there listening to the person, and all of a sudden the subject is the memory is starting to go, and now by the time they are done talking, you have forgotten what you have to say to them. An idea for you is something that I would probably suggest. Instead of cutting a person off when you talk to them because they think that you're rude, you're not trying to be rude. You just have this thought that came in, and you have to get it out of you before you forget it. Try to use your phone and have that little notepad app on there and type in the subject that you want to talk about, the idea that you want to bring up, or bring a pencil and paper with you to a discussion. And when something pops into your head, write it down, and that way you'll never forget it and you come back to it again. It's never a good idea to cut people off when they're talking, and sometimes what happens with me until this day is I don't know that I'm doing it until it happens. And that's the hyper part. And the caffeine doesn't help when it comes to communication. And the other thing is, if you are in a conversation with somebody and you know that you're drifting, Okay. The best part is do the best you can to keep attention, because what will happen at the conversation is they may ask you a question about what they talked to you about at that point. And you might sit there and say, I have no idea what you just said. I stood here for half an hour listening to you. My mind just drifted off as to what I was going to do later. And now you just made a person very upset, thinking, if you stood here for half an hour and your mind just went off, I just wasted my time, because they're thinking you don't care what I have to say. And that's a selfish act that they're going to think, and they're not going to want to talk to you again. So be really cautious about jumping over people's sentences, or listening. And you want to be a part. You want to have your friends. You want to be a part of conversations, but jumping in and having, you don't need to be hypertonic. If caffeine is your fuel to keep that going, just keep in mind that other people are just as important as you are, and you may not understand why they're upset with you. And I had that before for a long time, that I was opposite. Now, at times I had the hyperness, and at times I was just quiet. And when I was quiet, I was sitting there. I would stand and think, and then while people were talking to me, my mind just wandered off to somewhere else. And then they would ask me a question, and they would say to me, did you listen to anything I was saying? And the honesty was, no, I really didn't care, because after 10 minutes, I didn't care about what they had to say, because I was bored with their conversation. And that was me back in the day, and maybe that's you now. Something to think about is talk about something that keeps your interest. Keep your interest going on a certain subject that you're interested in. If you're not interested in history or sports, then keep your focus on something that you, who have ADHD, are interested in. That way you can keep your attention span with people that you talk to. So I hope I helped you in this. I ask that you make some comments below, and you have a great day, and God bless. Bye-bye.